Good morning, Rise and Shine, Vincennes. It's 8:06 Tuesday morning. I'm Dustin Fuller, and joining me on the line now is Greg Parsley, Superintendent of the Vincennes Community School Corporation. Good morning, Mr. Parsley. How are you?
Good morning, Dustin. I'm great.
It's good. It's that time of year. Kids are going back to school, and hard to believe summer's just done.
It is. I always say once you get to the 4th of July, you pretty much know summer's over with, and summers seem to go so quick. Anyway, it seems like we were just at graduation um, just a couple weeks ago, but the reality was it was a couple months ago, and but here we are. We're back to getting back into those normal routines and all those things that means that school's ready to start again.
Well, it's also weird too. You talk about time moving fast. How about this? This is year number 17 in the VCSC for you.
That's a good question. I think it's either 17 or 18. I really can't. This actually may be starting my 18th year in the VCSC. I hadn't really thought about that, but
I get that.
I've,
The only thing
I've been,
go ahead.
well, I've been here for a long time.
I
That's
was going
all
to
I know.
say you started as principal my senior year of high school,
That's correct. That's
and
correct.
we're not afraid. Was not afraid of throwing me under a bus at graduation either. But that's neither here nor there. That was always a fun thing. That's how we know you have a little fun with your job.
I do. I mean, your graduating class was a fun one. We kind of got off to a little bit of a rocky start because I came in very strict and all of that, but I knew I could let up as the year went on, and I had a blast with your senior class. So couldn't have asked for a better group to start with.
Well, of course, nowadays things so much different from back when you started as principal. Now you're running the show for VCSC, and one of the new things. This was not something that you chose. This is something that was higher up the food chain. New rules with attendance.
hmm
I guess let's
Well,
explain it.
the legislature, I mean, there were several things that they went after when it came to K through 12 public education just in general. But one of the top of their priority wishes or on the list was tightening the belt when it comes to attendance and putting some more significant language in place. And I don't disagree, certainly with the pretense behind it, because the reality is if you're not in school, you can't learn. Now, I would probably also argue the majority, I always say this all the time, 95, 96% of our people always do the right thing all the time. They're not the ones that are causing the problems or abusing. It's usually that 4 to 5% where we run into the issues, but that was the group that the legislature wanted to kind of go after. But I would probably argue in doing that, they really went after the whole gamut. But it does force us to tighten the belt, so to speak, with attendance. And the middle school and the high school are going to operate based upon the new policy that a student is allowed to miss no more than 7 days during the first semester, and then thereafter you have to provide a doctor's statement. And then the elementary is at 5, and then Washington Learning Academy, just obviously that school functions in a little different environment with a different grade. So depending on whether it's a middle school, high school, or an elementary student is how it'll be applicable. But it's it's much different, and there's not a lot of flexibility in how the state passes that back to us. The bottom line is they expect students in school. So we need our students here.
Well, I'm going to ask about this with the Cal Ripken 10-year-old World Series
Yeah.
and the Babe Ruth 14-year-old World Series upcoming. What's the situation with that?
Well, we have a little flexibility with our students who are in town, and that we can kind of work with them that if they are participating and doing something out at Cub League, then they'll be able to go out there. But if they're not doing anything, then they're going to have to be in school so that we can at least grant some release time for games. And that includes not only the players, the princesses, and so forth. So there's a little bit of wiggle room, gray area for those in town, as long as they will just do what is expected and needed. That if they're not out at the ball field, then they've got to be in school, or if they don't have a game. In years past, we've probably been a little more lenient or flexible. But again, the reality is those kids are not ones that are abusing. They've never abused. That's not the target population that the state is going after, and they'll make up all their assignments and so forth. So a little leniency can be granted, but it's not quite to the level that we've been able to extend in the past.
Well, and I believe what the state's trying to do is maybe cut down on the truancy issues.
Correct. And again, I mean, as I said earlier, the reality is, 95, 96% of our population does what they're supposed to all the time. That's not a group that is truant or that you have those truancy issues, but unfortunately, it goes across the entire gamut. So,
well, and with the new school year, you also have new staff. Got a couple of new principals at Franklin and CMS.
we do. That's been one of the things in my many years sitting in the superintendent's position. I've in large part had continuity. My administrative ranks did not turn over or change over any. And last year, we had a couple retirements at Vigo and Riley Elementary. So we had two new principals come in last year, and this year we've got two more new principals, and Mr. Malone, who will join us at Franklin Elementary, and Mrs. Hall, who's our new principal at the middle school. Mrs. Hall had been the assistant principal. Mr. Malone has been with us before he actually started his teaching in the Vincennes Community School Corporation at Riley, and wanted to get into administration, and there just wasn't an opportunity for him at the time within the VCSC. And I think he started out at the Youth Village and then had been over at Lawrenceville most recently. So we're thrilled to be able to bring him home. And then Mrs. Hall, we were thrilled to be able to bring her in a couple of years ago. She's another person who got, in large part, her start within the VCSC, taught at the high school. Actually, I had hired her at the high school when I was principal, and then she too, that desire to go into administration, and she landed at North Knox and had done a variety of things, and then an opportunity came that we could bring her back, and she became the assistant principal and now goes into the principal's chair.
Several things have been going on as well. I've noticed personally, as I've been driving around the last week, a lot of blacktopping going on at the schools. One at Lincoln, definitely Lincoln, saw the lots were getting blacktop, getting ready for school. Also, driving by Franklin, walking by Tecumseh Harrison earlier in the week because I live not very far from there. I noticed that there's several other projects going on as well, though.
Yeah, a large part it was a lot of seal coating. I'm sure a lot of people probably would think, nothing like waiting till the last minute. That poor company actually mobilized before the 4th of July, and then the weather just wreaked havoc. Obviously, they can't work if there's any threat of rain or whatever it may be. So they're kind of scurrying at the last minute. I mean, they worked all weekend. Obviously, they will have us ready to go. And that's all that really matters. But I know it's kind of a little bit of an inconvenience, especially for staff and some of the orientations and all of that. But lots of projects. I always say June and July is not near enough time to get done or accomplish what you really need to accomplish in schools. I mean, our primary focus is just getting the buildings turned over, get them cleaned so that we are ready to welcome staff and students back in. But we've got some significant projects. We've got a very large project ongoing at the high school, and that's going to be a project at least for the next 3 years with some of the things that will happen this summer. I mean, we started the culinary arts. That's a pathway that we offer for graduation at the high school. We have a very dynamic instructor in Kathy Berry, and we decided we wanted to put a commitment to her level of enthusiasm and passion, and basically converting what has always been, some people will think of it as home ec, others will think of it, I mean, it's truly family and consumer science, but letting her truly have the culinary arts lab that she needs, and that where we can bring in outside groups. Students can cater and have opportunities, but that's a significant investment inside the high school. Then we also replaced the roof on the high school, and then we're in the process of putting solar panels on top. And then we've got a lot of projects. Some of the things that people, the general public wouldn't notice if they're ever driving by, but we're having to replace a lot of the piping inside the high school, the fire sprinkler, all of that, doors, hardware. We're going to at least start some locker room and restroom renovations. And a large part of, the high school, I mean, on the surface, it looks like still a very new building, and our facilities folks do a nice job keeping it up. But the reality is a lot of that is still original equipment and original to the building when it first opened. And so, I mean, we're 40 years later, and it's time to begin replacing some of that. So we've got a lot of work happening at the high school, and then we've got some work that will also happen at WLA, or Washington Learning Academy. We were able to, with ESSER or COVID funds, to in large part handle the interior of that building, but we've got some facade work that needs to be done with some of the masonry. And then at some point we're going to have some work at Franklin in terms of the playground. So a variety of things, but we can't certainly get those projects done, at least with the nature of them, in 2 months. And then we've got phase 2 and phase 3 of the projects as well that will start to kind of look at some of the things from a sports facility at the high school, and predominantly starting with the track.
I guess several years ago, the elementary schools were renovated here in Vincennes. Is it going to be to a similar scale, or is it a little different from that?
No, it would be much different. A large part of the high school, I mean, the high school still as a facility is in phenomenal shape. It's a lot of the things that people probably don't always notice behind the scenes that need to be addressed. But, in terms of, we gutted the elementary schools. I mean, basically we took those buildings down to the skeleton, just basically the structure of the building, and then gutted them on the interior from every part, and then put brand new. We're not in a position that we could do that, certainly with the high school. It's too large of a facility, but it also is not in need of some of that. I mean, you think of our elementary schools, some of them go back to the 1900s, and there was significant work that had to be done on the interior of those buildings. We don't have that kind of significant to the point where we would need to gut a high school, but we've got a lot of things that, whether it be safety measures, some of it's cosmetic, but a lot of it is just, parts and pieces that are just starting to fail after nearly 40 years.
Well, and also, too, when you guys remodeled the elementary schools, I had the privilege of getting some time to tour the then new Tecumseh Harrison. Walking through, it felt like I felt like I was still in the old Tecumseh Harrison when you go through the primary wing, or what was the primary wing, which was the old Sacred Heart School building. Now it's all one building. And it's, you notice in ways that it's the same, but also it's different.
Yeah, that was one of the important things when we did the remodel of the elementary schools. I mean, obviously, the history of Vincennes is, I know some people get tired of constantly hearing of historical Vincennes, but that's the reality of Vincennes. It's one of our characteristics that makes us so unique as a community. And we needed to preserve some of that. And we wanted those schools to have the feeling on the inside that, from a technology standpoint, that they were state-of-the-art facilities, but we also wanted to preserve some of the, probably one of the primary areas, some of the wood floors, the stairwells, those types of things. I mean, You don't see those in brand new facilities. And I think those are some of the things that make our schools unique, at least in the elementary. So we were able to preserve, but we obviously had to take a lot of it. I mean, again, down to the bare bones and to the structure, and then kind of start over. And we were able to do that with the elementaries.
There are some changes. I'm going to transition over to transportation at this point. There are some changes with transportation, and I guess I'll let you update us on what all is going on with that.
Well, I mean, in large part, I think when it comes to, first of all, what I would probably say to folks, come Thursday, folks are a little bit out of the routine. Buses are going to hit the roads again. I'm always amazed. I don't know how people cannot see a huge yellow object, especially when all the emergency lights are activated on those buses. But the number of stop arm violations that we get is amazing, and there's no excuse for that. I know drivers get sometimes distracted with other things, but there's no excuse for not seeing a yellow school bus. So I would just remind people, bear with our buses the first couple of days. We'll all get back in the routines, but please give those buses plenty of space. But what I would also say, we provide so much real-time information to our parents, and not only whether it be through transportation, but also through the Power School and basically where parents can have access. But on a transportation front, if parents want the access, we can grant that to them where they can basically see the real time where the bus is. And it's all done through an app. I mean, as you and I both know, so much, and we kind of talked earlier before we'd gone on air, but I mean, technology is everywhere and anywhere. And whether we like it or not, doesn't make any difference. It's just part of our lives. But there are a lot of positives, and certainly from a transportation standpoint, being able to give real-time access to parents. If they want that, they can contact transportation, but they can also, just from a Power School standpoint of being up to date on whether it be attendance or discipline or whatever. I mean, those are things from, when I had you as a student in my first year as principal, I mean, we didn't even remotely have some of those tools at our disposal. And that's where I certainly believe technology has aided in a very much of a positive way, that communication that we can deliver as a school.
We've got a couple more minutes here. Superintendent Greg Parsley of the Vincennes Community School Corporation, our guest on this segment of Rise and Shine Vincennes. And while we were talking about transportation, also another thing to point out, this is something you were talking about the school buses. If you're wanting an idea where the school buses might be stopping, look at some of the street signs. There's signs that say bus stop VCSC for like different schools.
Correct. And, that was a partnership that we did with the city. Oh, it was probably 4 or 5 years ago, and the city was very gracious at working with us. But I mean, our signs are placed all over the city, showing where a bus stop is and so forth. So, yeah, taking and heeding notice of that is certainly a good thing as well.
Greg Parsley, thank you for joining us this morning on Rise and Shine Vincennes.
Thank you, Dustin.